That's okay. What's up? Ralph just asked me to go with him to high school social ritual with music. No way. Ralph, full name Ralph King. High school royalty because like he's really good at that sport that like everybody's weirdly obsessed with. King Ralph. High energy! I know, but I need your help because I don't know what to wear because I'm a quirky girl and all I know is baggy t-shirts, ratty sweaters, and jeans. You are so right. You do need my help. And lucky for you, I feel a makeover montage coming on. And I'm like 90% sure I'm gonna be in it because that's like the whole reason I was even written into this script. Au revoir. Maybe wear it on a Wednesday? Who's ready to do-si-do? Ew, do-si don't. Are you ready to shake that booty? Say cheese. Oh, please. No. Ew, why do you even have that? No. Oh. Yes! Really? It's perfect. Think so? Well, almost. There. Perfect. Cut! What is this? The script is awful. What the acting? Ugh, gross. No, this is not the makeover film I'm making. No, we're cutting everything, we're getting rid of those awful actors, and we're gonna do something different, something artistic, something classy. I'm seeing doors. Yeah, we're gonna make over these closet doors. I don't know what that was. In any case, we all know who the main character was in that skit. These French doors that go to my closet. I got these doors from a stranger on the internet. I love them. I got these doorknobs from another stranger on the internet. They're vintage glass doorknobs, and I was going to use them on other doors. I have more, but they literally don't make doors or doorknobs like they used to, so they won't work for any other doors. Another thing about these doors is that you can see right into the closet, which is not terribly bad because it's a well-organized closet. I just don't necessarily always want to see all of the stuff inside the closet. So I have this I plan on cutting and putting on the doors. I also need to add trim around the edges and also take off all of these shims that have been here for a while. So stick around for a closet French door makeover. The first thing I need to do is design exactly how I want the door to look, and in order to do that, I'm going to take measurements and then use those measurements to make a scale drawing on the computer. I'm doing it on the computer because I'm hoping to use my Cricut to cut out the frosted film stuff that's going to go on the windows. So I need to get that done.
I didn't film the entire process of measuring because that's boring. This is where that elementary school geometry class can shine. Basic rectangles within rectangles. I'm no mathematician, but I can do that.
All right, I have all of my measurements. It's a mess, but we're gonna go ahead and keep going.
I used Photoshop to get my rectangles not perfectly mapped out, but good enough. I then input those rectangles into the Sketchbook app because my Photoshop skills are seriously lacking. This program is more intuitive for me, which is a nice way of saying even an idiot can figure it out. I came up with 3 designs, sent them to my husband, and cleaned up the one he liked best.
Okay, it took a lot longer than I thought it would, story of my life, but I finally have the design ready on my computer to cut out with my Cricut, so that's what we're gonna do now. Okay, so this is the window cling that I got. When I first got it, I thought that it had like an adhesive back, but it's actually just like a cling film. I just got this at Home Depot like a year ago, and what I'm going to do is pull it out, and each of the window pieces is about 7 by 12.5 inches. I want to cut out pieces of this that are about that size so that I can have enough space that it will completely cut out the shapes that I need.
So I busted out more of those mad skills I learned as a small child and got to cutting. Now, the adhesive on my cutting mat is dirty and no longer very sticky, but instead of getting new mats or fixing the issue somehow, I just got it on there the best I could and babysat it in the machine. This was stupid, and I did end up cleaning the cutting mat enough to use without having to do this.
All right, I have all of my pieces cut out. At this point, I have no idea how it's gonna go, so let's just get started.
I only cut out the first set of windows at first in case this whole idea was garbage and needed to be scrapped. It worked out all right though. Mostly because the design did not require me to perfectly and individually place a lot of small pieces to make the design work. I mostly just needed to line up the pieces with the edges, being mindful of the flow from one glass pane to the next. If you have never used this before, it's fairly simple. After washing the windows, I would spray some water, place my pieces, and then use a card to squeeze out any air bubbles and excess water. With that first set successfully in place, I set out to cut the rest of the design. I got into a rhythm of cutting a sheet while weeding the one that just got done, and I thought all was going smoothly.
I just realized that my machine has been cutting out the same shape. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 repeats. I only needed 2 of them. Okay, well, I still have this much left from this roll of paper. I should be good, and these are all blank.
Everything did work out all right. Only time and sanity were lost in small measure. But the brave creator ventures on. With everything in order, all that was left to do was to apply the cling film to the rest of the glass. Piece by piece, it came together, and when it was done, I realized I made the spaces between the film too wide, and the design didn't look quite as nice in real life as on my computer. Maybe I will redo it, but for now, it stays. The inspiration for this design is Rivendell elves, which is going to be the inspiration for the whole room, a combination of Art Nouveau and Gothic shapes.
All right. The next thing we need to do here is just get rid of all of these things. I have a power tool, and I know how to use it, and that's what I'm gonna do.
These shims have historically been useful as a convenient place to hang items, but the time has come for all things to be hung inside the closet. I then came up with some designs for the door frame and sent them again to my husband to rank in order of his favorite. I liked them all and, as an indecisive person, was thankful for his input. With the votes in, my next step would be to make a life-size pattern for application on the wood that would be the door frame. I have a roll of butcher paper that was perfect for this. I found at a thrift store for $5, and while I was unsure I was spending my money wisely at first, it has proven very valuable as I have gone about various creative projects. Also ignore the potty. This hallway is a receptacle of things that we intend to get rid of and just haven't gotten it done yet. I have not mentioned it yet, but perhaps the title of this video will have a clue. I'm not sure, I haven't titled it yet. Anyway, my point is that of course my door frame ideas are not commercially available. I would have to carve it myself, thus the paper template. I obtained pine boards from Home Depot and cut them down to the appropriate length before tracing on my template. I did both the sides of the doors first, and then I did the top piece. For symmetry reasons, my template only has half of the door frame, so that I can simply flip the paper over and do the other side exactly the same shape as the first. And then it was time to cut. I was a bit nervous about this part because this is my first time using this particular jigsaw, which I purchased at an estate sale this summer. I didn't even know if it worked when I bought it. I had to buy new blades for it, and they weren't a perfect match for the design of the blade it came with, so I was also worried that they would fall out. To my great pleasure, and as you can clearly see, the jigsaw worked perfectly. I took the offcuts and attached them to the top and the bottom of the door frame, gluing and clamping them in place. My design calls for a broader top and bottom of the door frame, so this worked very well. With one side of the door frame clamped and waiting for glue to dry, I set to work on cutting the other side of the door frame into the correct shape. I also cut the top of the door frame and was then ready to take the clamps off and cut the bottom and top of the door frame into shape. Watching this footage of me working in one of my dresses brings to mind Kelly Riemtsens. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, but she has a series of paintings of people in 1950s, just really pretty sundresses, and they are all holding various types of tools, sometimes power tools or yard tools, and I'm not gonna lie, that makes me kind of happy. Here I'm taking advantage of the soft pine wood to transfer my designs by pressing into the wood with a screwdriver through the paper. I do end up going over a lot of these marks with a pencil just to improve visibility. I started in with my router, eating away the wood in the deepest parts of what will ultimately be a relief carving. But I will note that I should have been taking better safety precautions, including wearing a mask to keep from breathing in all of that sawdust and some actual safety glasses. I was at it again first thing the next morning, this time with my chisels. I have a wood mallet for driving the chisel. I just don't know what happened to it, so I used a rubber mallet instead. And using a coarse sandpaper bit on my Dremel, I went through and cleaned up a lot of the chisel marks that ended up being left behind from that step in the process. I also went in with a cone-shaped bit, which I didn't end up showing in the video, but that went and ate into the transition parts between the different shapes. And here I am using that same cone-shaped bit that I mentioned earlier to carve out and shape the little leaves along the vine-like shape that goes up and down the central shaft. I'm not entirely sure what to call everything. Although I'm not trying in any way to be true to representation of real plant life, I did want to evoke that, and for especially the top parts, the top and side parts of the door frame, I was inspired by the wisteria plant, which I think is very beautiful and romantic and dreamy, and I just love it. But this wrapping vine and leaf motif was just meant to evoke nature and not actually represent it. And of course, when I was happy with the one side, I had to move on to the other side of the door frame. All of the same steps took place again with the router and then the chisels. Again, I removed the bulk of the material with the router and with the chisels before going in with my Dremel. With the pine being such a soft wood, I was able to remove a good amount of material using just the rough sandpaper bit on the Dremel, and I was actually able to round out a lot of edges just using that. If I had more time and or a harder wood, it would probably have been a good idea to use a rasp instead. After getting some initial smoothing done with my Dremel, I also went in with a palm sander as seen here. I started with a coarser grit sandpaper and then moved on and also went over it again with a finer grit sandpaper. This was very dusty work, and again, I should have been wearing a mask to protect myself from breathing in all of that dust. Eventually, I will learn. I also repeated the process of carving in those finer details with that cone-shaped bit. And I was ready to start that top part. But first I had to change my setup, and I had to make sure that the top part would stay lined up correctly with the bottom parts. For this, I got some pieces of cardboard and stapled them to the back so that the two pieces were lined up and would stay that way. Then I was really just repeating the whole process all over again. Router, chisel, Dremel. I truly did not give myself enough time to finish this project. And that's one thing I would have done differently, is give myself more time to create more definition and depth in these various little details. I would have loved to have added, for example, more depth and detail into the leaves and the flowers at the top. I finally got all of this loveliness carved. It is still very dusty, so I'm going to use my shop vac and vacuum the dust off of it. I also need to pull the staples out of the back. Anyways, yeah, I already got stuff on my dress today. It is pretty much the first thing in the morning, so I will be wearing an apron, which is what I should do more often. Then we are going to attach the door with some finish nails. I've also got this caulk to fill in any gaps, and then I'll be ready to kind of stain it, kind of paint it, paint it. Here we go. After this riveting footage of me vacuuming dust, you will see me dry fitting the door frame around the door. What I don't show is that the bottom of the left side of the door frame was just a little bit too big, so I shaved a little bit of that off, I think with the jigsaw. This also probably would have worked better with two people. The top piece was not secure, and I had to catch it a couple times.
I have a bit of a problem. That being that when I everything's lined up at the top. That's about where it's supposed to be. Down here at the bottom, the door frame is sticking out too far. All right, well, what you missed was me accidentally putting the caulk on my bedding and quickly pulling it off and washing it. So that's saved. I then just went ahead, I nailed this into place. What I did was I pulled this top end inwards, and I think that should help with some of our asymmetry problems. And I might be able to pull this one inwards as well. So let's get the top on, get that pulled together, and see what we can do.
So yeah, my approach at this point was to just force it to work. And here you will see me using my brad nailer, which is hooked up via an extra long hose to an air compressor. Now, the right side of the door frame does end up giving me some trouble. I nail it into place at the top, and when I get to the bottom, it is not pulling over. So I end up using my same little power tool that I used to cut off the shims just to shave a little bit off the bottom, which you can see here. But it worked, and my room smelled like pine for a little bit.
So this section was popping forward. So I clamped it down, I added some caulk, and I added some more nails. And hopefully that will help it to stay in place. I'll give it a few hours and we'll come back and see. But it's all in place. I added some caulk along the seam here. As I was working on it, I realized in my head that I should probably have used like wood putty, but it's too late now. I already did it, so we're just gonna move forward.
Finally, I get to paint it. This was probably the most relaxing part of the whole thing. I watered down some acrylic craft paint so that it would stain the wood and kind of wash it that color while still leaving the wood grain fairly visible. And as I said earlier, I was inspired by wisteria, so that's what I used to pick out the colors. For this part, I wanted to fade out that color, so what I did was I just continuously added water as I worked outward.
So earlier, I noticed a little white paint on my leggings, and there was some on my boot too. Well, I just found where it was from. I thought it was, like I was looking around my space. I was like, where is it? Where's the white paint? I don't know how it got there. Maybe I brushed against it. No. I stepped on a tube. I got it on my carpet.
I started by scraping the paint off with a palette knife and then wiping at it with a rag that I wet with some acetone. In the end, I'm not sure how I did. This rug is pretty dirty, and not having cleaned it, there's a white spot there still. I don't know if it's paint.
wardrobe that I share with my husband. Throughout this process, I have been letting him have a say in what the design is. So he has not yet seen the trim all painted and put together. So I asked him if he would be willing to film his reaction, and he has agreed to do that. So we're gonna just go ahead and bring him in. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, that looks really cool. What did you use for this?
It's just craft paint that I used.
For each of them?
Uh-huh.
I really like the purples and the greens. I feel like that really balances each other out really well. And like the contrast from the lighter to this darker gives like a little bit of depth. I feel like this spot right above the center of the door needs a little bit of something.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Like, you've got quite a big expanse going across with not a ton, but I think that would be fairly easy to do, and it doesn't like make it unattractive or anything.
It would be easy, huh?
I like it.
All right, we're wrapping things up. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's like I'm a reverse butterfly where I'm inside of a cocoon, but instead of me being the one who changes into a beautiful butterfly, it's the cocoon that changes into the butterfly. And I am here to hype it up. I'm also the one doing all of the transforming. My hands are sore. In any case, if you're asking yourself, what is this green dress you're wearing? Well, it was featured in another video that I made actually this week because this door project took over my life and I needed a couple extra days, but I was filming another video. So if that's out already, check it out here. If it's not, then stay tuned, subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you